People filtering in. It's a very busy time of year, so we're happy to have all of you
It's being
here
filmed
tonight
anyway, so.
for our first community forum. My name is Susan Kuska. I'm the superintendent of schools for Holliston Public Schools, and we started this Holliston Coalition Against Hate and Bias almost 2 years ago. This came about as just a need to really address some of the incidents of hate and bias we were seeing. It started that were some incidents on the school sides. We've been doing a ton of training, which we'll talk about a little bit more before we get into another presentation. But really, the need is much bigger than the schools. So I had reached out with, at the time, Travis Ahern, our town administrator, to see if we could come together as a town entity and a school community and work with our town leaders to see if we can bring this work to fruition, because our students are out in the community much more than they are in the schools, even though we have them a lot of time. And there's a need to really have this work being replicated and built into the community so that our children get that message day and night, and that our community is a safe place for everyone here. So that really kind of is where the momentum came for this coalition. So why? It's to provide a space and an opportunity for community members to come together collaboratively, we lost a word somehow, to combat hate and bias in Holliston. We found out that there really was a need and a desire to broaden how we respond and address incidents of hate and bias in the Holliston community. Again, that's how this work started. We've done a similar presentation to this as in the past. This is a much more abbreviated one, and we're going to get into some of the broader hate and bias, which is much more than just Holliston and in Massachusetts and the nation as well. So this is some of the work that we've done on the Holliston Public Schools side. People always say, what are you doing to address this? You're not doing enough. It's never enough, right? We have our students 6 to 6.5 hours a day. We can't fill all of their buckets. There's a community need. This is not a school thing. This is definitely a community thing. But we have done a lot of work, and we continue to do so. We have peer leaders that are continuing to build this work. We've done a lot of work on the unified systems for support, things like Ruler, PBIS, trauma-sensitive practices, and culturally responsive education to help build that inclusive, supportive environment that our students need day to day. We've also put in ways to respond to incidents of hate and bias, and how do we promote safety and equity in the schools. Constantly building protocols for bias. We're working on attendance. We see chronic absenteeism as an issue, and sometimes that can be because of students not feeling welcome in the environment. Also dealing with, we have an anonymous reporting system, the Sandy Hook reporting system, that anyone can anonymously report, whether it's hate incidents or just someone could be a suicidal issue, multiple things that could be going on in the community, our schools and beyond. So we have systems in place for that. And we're really working on our ongoing year-round growth in all of these areas. We are really about equity-driven decisions. We've done a lot of work with data. We have the role, you'll meet Jariel Vernay, who's our Director of SEL and Equity, who's been with us for 4 years now. And we're really looking at all the data that we have and digging into it to make sure that we continually improve and grow as a school system. We've done a ton of work also around student engagement and mental health. We have supports in place like Care Solace and Cartwheel, that we have actually ways that students and families can get help outside of school hours, but they can access supports that we provide free of charge through the schools. So there's a ton going on. Again, it's never enough. Something that's not on here that I just wanted to mention, we also have students that are working on Project 351, which is a state organization that trains our students to be peer leaders. We had students present the other night. 2 high school students are working with middle school students. They're training them to be recognizing anti-racist work and being against hate and bias, and they're training our middle school students to be peer leaders as well, and that work is going and trickling up. So those students will eventually be at the high school, and we're just expanding that from year to year. So that's another program that I should have added here. I'm going to hand off next to Kathleen Buckley, our Assistant Town Manager.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay, thought I just shut that off. I'm Kathleen Buckley. I'm the Assistant Town Manager for the town of Holliston. I'm also the HR Director. I work closely with the schools, but I oversee the town employees, town buildings. I thought I would just start by introducing our new town manager, Frank Gervasio, who is here tonight, and we're very happy to have him here. It's a great example. Frank is deeply committed to this work. When we talk about recruiting people for these positions, we also want everyone to be like-minded, understand what our expectations are being at work and working with some of our most vulnerable residents that we're looking for people that are sensitive, culturally sensitive. And one of the things that the select board did was create a screening committee for the town manager and had DEI representatives there on the screening committee. So all of the candidates spoke. The screening committee obviously put Frank forward, and certainly that was an element to all of us getting our jobs today. So thank you for that. And I will go through our list here of the things that we're doing in town across the community departments, boards, and committees. So we did establish this coalition, as the superintendent mentioned. If anything does happen in the community, we all want to be a united response to that, and I know that that's what the community wants. It's not just a school issue, it's not just a community issue. We want our kids to feel safe and have the right messaging depending upon what the community might experience. So we're here to do that. Reviewing policies and procedures. I was a part of the town's 5-year strategic plan that was launched by the Envisioning Future Holliston Committee. Town meeting established the Envisioning Future Holliston Committee. Each person represents a different entity of the town. One of their initiatives was to create a policy advisory committee, which will review all of the policies in town and just make sure that what we're doing is equitable and fair. And we're looking at everything with a DEI lens. So that's just getting started, and we'll certainly have updates in public forums. Hiring and retaining staff. I use the town manager as an example of the process, but we're certainly looking to cast a very wide net and try to find people. We're also looking for teachers and people of different cultures to be here to enrich our community in terms of jobs. Community engagement programs such as these will continue to do. Providing access to translation services. We're doing that at town meeting, and we're doing that with all of our PDFs online and providing that on our website. So on the town website, we have a translation box that you can translate any of our PDFs into many different languages, and we provide that service and translation services here in this room for town meeting. Improving affordable housing. I know we've all worked on that at town meeting this past spring with 3A housing and other zoning and plan reviews, and diversity and funding. So while we've made some progress, we recognize there's still more to be done, and our doors are open, both the town manager and myself, to listen to your concerns. Also know that we did in the fall hire a trainer to come in and train in DEI practices for our boards and committees. We invited 3 boards. We're hoping to do 3 more in the fall and over the summer. That helps us kind of learn about being sensitive when people come to us with their problems. We're all in public service, and all of our volunteer boards are also in public service, and we want them to be aware of what our expectations are for this kind of work. Okay? Is that good? Okay. Keeping everyone on track. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to all of those who are tuning in remotely. My name is Jackie Weiner. I'm the director at Holliston Youth and Family Services, and I provide mental health counseling and resources to residents in the community. And we meet every child and family where they are at when they come into our offices. We have a neuro-affirming lens of care, which means that we don't see children as problems to fix. We see challenges as ways in which we can intervene and understand what's going on for that child or that family. We have a prevention arm of our department we call HDAC, the Holliston Drug and Alcohol Awareness Coalition. Zoe Moreau, who is our coalition coordinator, is here tonight. And we work collaboratively because even though we're responding to the needs in the community, we also want to take a prevention lens, which means that we respond proactively, right? We look at the data, we work together, we work in partnerships, we understand what the needs are, and we work to help make sure that we are uplifting our protective factors in the community. So making sure that there are safe sidewalks to get to school, making sure that there are safe after-school activities for children to participate in, making sure that there are childcare alternatives when parents have to work, and things of that sort. So we work all together and collaboratively to really address what the needs are in the community. We understand that the needs right now for some families are pretty significant, right? I can't overlook what's happening in the community right now. You turn on your news, and I think you know what I mean by that. We've become quite skilled in supporting residents that have immigration-related concerns. We also can support residents that speak multiple languages. We have interpretation services. So nothing should deter you from accessing services at our department. We can meet your needs, or we can help you understand who can meet that need in the community and really bridge you with a warm handoff. So we encourage all residents to reach out to us, stop by our department, come by and take a look at our space if you're curious or just want to see what we do. And I look forward to answering any questions at the end of this forum.
All right, I have a longer presentation after this presentation, but I think that I'll just, speak on behalf. What's that? Oh, I'm Jim Barrett, Lieutenant with the Holliston Police Department. I apologize. I have a whole introduction slide on my presentation. So, just to make you aware, law enforcement in Massachusetts is really on the cutting edge of training. The Commonwealth invests a great deal of money and resources into training all law enforcement officers within the Commonwealth. With the establishment of the post standards, the police officer standards of training, all police officers in Holliston are certified police officers, and all police officers that are working within the Commonwealth have to maintain that certification. We are definitely focused on equity. The chief has recently engaged with an app that helps with hiring. It allows us to recruit from well beyond the borders of our community, which actually is we had how many? We had over 40, I think, applicants to this last wave of hiring that we're doing from, not from obviously from other states, but from within the Commonwealth. So it allows us to, kind of blindly cast a net out there and just welcome people into our organization and recruit the best qualified police officer candidates that we can possibly do. As a police officer in Holliston, Chief Stone has given me the ability to continue to work with the MPTC. I am a certified trainer for the MPTC. I teach hate crimes. And yep. I'm sorry. The Municipal Police Training Committee is MPTC. I'm sorry if I'm kind of using that. It's 30 years of just being ingrained into my brain. POST is new. POST is Police Officer Standards and Training, and that is an organization that came into being several years ago. After the George Floyd situation had happened, we saw a need to basically have a clearinghouse, so to speak, where officers' records and things like that were kept so that we could maintain certification and make sure that police officers that shouldn't be on the job weren't on the job anymore. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's what the police officer standards of training are. And for police officers that are doing the right thing, which is the vast majority of police officers in the Commonwealth, this is meaningless to us. We continue to go out there and do the great work that we've been doing in the Commonwealth, basically historically. Any other acronyms that I'm throwing out there? Was it really just the MPTC and POST? Okay, I apologize for that. But yes, I teach at the Municipal Police Training Committee centers, the academies, and I also teach in-service training for law enforcement officers throughout the Commonwealth. This most recently, 2025, we did a block on freedom of speech, and then hate and bias incidents and crimes, and also the various hate groups that we need to be concerned about that are operating within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I have done work also as a policy fellow at Harvard. I did a disproportionate minority confinement study at EOPS that revealed what we probably already know, that people of color are affected disproportionately in the justice system, and there's a whole program and committee in every government across the United States that is committed to try to reduce what's otherwise known as DMC. And with that, I'll turn it back to Dr. Kuska.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
All right, so if you don't already know why, we're hoping that you leave tonight with a better sense of why we need to do this work in Holliston, right? We are not unique. We are a lovely, safe community. However, there's still a ton of work to be done. We don't want this community to be a place that is viewed as an unsafe community for all people in the community. And there have been incidents that have happened that, at least on my end, on the school side, we have seen students that have gone away feeling unsafe here, and that's not the message. We need to do better. I wonder, too, if we do have some cards. I'm going to just talk about sort of the next steps for tonight. I do want to point out also that this is one of our statements for our group is our community stands for love, respect, and dignity for all. People want to argue sometimes against DEI or equity work. They think it means something it doesn't. It's hard to argue against love, respect, and dignity for all, which encapsulates why we need to do work around DEI and equity as well. But the format for tonight is that we're going to have Jim do a presentation on some of the whys behind how important this work is. We also want to offer an opportunity for people to potentially write questions on note cards. We might hand those out while Jim's getting ready to set up. We also are going to end up talking about an ally pact. And all the work that we've done as a coalition is to get to the Ally Pact. So tonight is going to be our release of that Ally Pact, and Jariel's going to do some talking about the Ally Pact, and then we'll also do the presentation by Jim, and we'll pass around some cards so you can ask questions at the end. Hopefully we'll have some time for that as well.
I'm going to use this. You can turn that off.
While Jariel's setting up, if you'd like to take 5 minutes or so and try some of those lemon squares, and these are feedback cards too. You can thank Nana Barrett for these. So. No, I really mean it. You guys can get some lemon squares. You can take them home as well, because I don't need them in my house.
There's also a coffee stand that's like tucked away.
Yeah, there's coffee and milk and everything.
We found the milk.
They found milk, so there's coffee, there's milk.
Yeah. She was big in when I was in Rentham. She used to love baking. It just kept her busy. So like once a week, I would pick up her baked goods and bring them to the courthouse and just set them.
Maybe at the end, yeah. So.
here on the board. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm trying to say.
We good? Okay. So as you take a bite of the lemon squares and you have a coffee, now that we found milk, why don't we get started? So I'm going to be doing a little bit of framing for the context that Jim is going to get into. Then this is my first part. You're going to get a chance to hear me again later on today. So you can boo me off the stage later. With myself. I'm going to partner up with Kathleen later this afternoon. Well, not this afternoon, later this evening again. So why are we here? But a little bit with more context. So we're going to examine the national, the state, and the local context for hate and bias. This is going to help us understand the patterns and how it affects our local Holliston community. This is our why. Right? This is why we are in the room. Right? We're in the room so we can lean into this work. We're going to make it real. This is why we come together as a community, to bring a collective closeness to this work. We have to get proximal with the work. The data, the facts, grounds our conversations. Right? That's what's going to ground our conversations today, and what grounds the coalition's work as we move forward into the future. So setting the tone as we come together, and it sets the tone for Lieutenant Barrett's conversations. It's about the local impact, but specifically, it provides the why behind the Ally Pact. The Ally Pact is not a solution. The Ally Pact that you're going to get a chance to hear in the third part of today is a step. It's a collective step together, but it's just a step. The context around us is large. There's a lot happening outside of our walls today. Today, we get a chance to hear about the past, the statistical past, some of the statistical present, but it's just a piece of the conversation. And we've been engaged as the coalition talking about where do we begin. And this is our first kind of forum to say, here's where we're beginning in this step here. And we hope that as you came to engage with us today, that you'll take that step with us. But we also hope that as we continue to have other events in the future, you'll continue to take those steps with us. And we're going to have more chances to talk about what that looks like. So here's how we're going to handle some of the questions that may come up today. We're going to ask you if you could write, and if we could pass out those cue cards today. Oh, we did. Perfect. We're already on it. So if you can write the questions on the cue cards. You don't have to write names. Keep those anonymous. You're going to have questions that come up about the data, right? The data might, I wasn't expecting that, right? You might have questions that might question what you thought, or confirm what you thought, or I wasn't expecting that, etc. Write those down. If you have questions about any presenter, about some of the feedback, etc., or thoughts that come up about future events, or oh, could we do this, etc., just write them down. And here's what I would suggest. We may not, at the end of today, be able to answer every single question, because the context for today was to ground our feet, was to ground our conversation in the local, regional context of the data, and then to launch the Ally Pact. But all the questions might be here, but also might be here in this larger context. So we may not be able to answer all the questions. But also what we commit to is your questions are valuable. So we're also talking about what do we do with those questions. So we're talking about possibly creating a FAQ that we can kind of build a FAQ and have it on our town page or somewhere where we can answer those questions as a coalition. But also those questions might generate future coalition events. So all of your questions and all your feedback are meaningful. So if we don't get to them today, please don't feel that we're ignoring them. We just may not get to it. Okay? Yeah. I hope so. Well, we have plenty. If you don't have a card, and we have plenty, so feel free to come up, raise your hand, we'll get your cards. We got cards, all right?
And chapstick.
So once again, today's about understanding the landscape. And here's the other piece too. We also want to name what are some of the barriers that might be impacting reporting bias incidences of hate too. That's also going to come out in the presentation. Because it's not just about the data we know about, there's also plenty of data that we may not ever know about. That also impacts the work. And then the last piece is highlighting the role of communities in that. We have a role to play in highlighting that second box, the barriers that come into the work, around highlighting what gets in the way. Does that make sense? So with that being said, I'm going to hand it off to Lieutenant Bear.
All right. Thanks, Jeriel. All right, so we're going to talk about hate and bias in 2025, and I'm just going to preface this with the fact that I'm a police officer, and I've been a police officer for a very long time. And I predominantly speak to police officers. I train police officers. My world is just policing. That's all I really know. If I wasn't a police officer, I don't know what I would do. Probably nothing. But anyway, that being said, the perspective that I'm sharing today is a law enforcement perspective. This is what we are actively training and learning about in law enforcement today. To maybe put your mind at ease, you know, that police officers are actually being exposed to these things that you may not be aware of, all right? We're part of the community, we're part of society, and these are things that we need to know about, and there might be things here that I'm gonna talk about today that you weren't aware of, and that may be surprising to you, okay? All right, who am I? Like I just said, I'm a cop. I've been a cop for a long time. I come from a family of police officers. I have basically worn a uniform since I was 18 years old, when I went in the service and then just entered a life of public service. So I am completely institutionalized in the public service role. I embrace it. Even when we're at the low valleys of policing, I try to be forward-facing all the time and try to talk to people about some of the things that we struggle with in law enforcement. One of which is, and I think I was just mentioning it earlier today, just having a conversation, is messaging. Police officers and policing in general struggle with messaging, right? I think we can all agree with that. But I've been doing this for a long time. I have always been interested and fascinated with what we're going to discuss tonight. It's just been something that I've always been curious about and have studied and researched throughout my academic life, throughout policy studies that I've done. I'm fascinated by it, and I think that my knowledge in it is one of those things, just one small thing that can help move policing forward into the 21st century. And if I can affect recruits' lives with the things that I have to share, then I think that's a net positive for everybody. I think we all win by doing that. So I'm just going to, aside from the introduction, basically I've done that. This is a lot of the slides that I have, I've stolen from the Municipal Police Training Committee because it's the curriculum that I teach. I've gotten approval to use it, and I think it's definitely beneficial to see what we are doing. In the grand scheme of things, law enforcement and society in general is influenced by the things that happen. Jeriel spoke to it briefly, but by the global community. The world around us influences the trends and things that we experience here in the United States on a macro level, and then in New England, and then in Holliston, right? Things that are going on around us affect us. We're going to talk about international strife, national strife, what's happening in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the impact all of these things have on law enforcement, right? The impact, how that impacts me and Chief Stone, and how we try to navigate the waters of what's happening in society today. We're gonna close with hate groups, the various hate groups that exist in the Commonwealth and that are very active in the Commonwealth. And then I'll hand it back over to Jeriel. So obviously, international strife. What's going on in the world today? A lot, right? That's an understatement to even say a lot is going on in the world today. We've got the war. We've got the war with Hamas. We have the war in Ukraine. We've got immigration, right? The elephant in the room. We've got the conflict now with Iran that the United States is part of, right? A party to. All of these things reverberate within our own country, obviously, right? And as law enforcement, we have to be attuned to everything that's happening, because we're going to be expected to respond to these stressors in our communities. So that's why the MPTC is on, and Massachusetts in general invests so much in police training, so that we can try to mitigate some of the impact that this has in society. All right. National policy. Obviously, our own national politics influence what's going on in our communities, right? That's an understatement. It really is having impact, not just in the population, but also in law enforcement, that is oftentimes left to try to handle and manage what's happening in society, right? So we are basically the gatekeepers, as we always have been, to social issues. We're the gatekeepers to the court system. We're the gatekeepers to social programs. We're the gatekeepers to national grid. Think about it. When people's power goes out, who do they call? They call the police. When are they going to turn the power back on? We have to be able to be nimble and answer all of these questions, not the least of which is national policy issues that are happening and affecting us today. What are we seeing? Protests in campuses. That's happening throughout the country, right? Massachusetts has tons of colleges. The best learning institutions in the country are in Massachusetts. We have all of this happening. We have record increases in anti-Semitism, the likes of which have not been seen in decades in the United States over the past 5 years. So law enforcement is acutely aware of everything that's happening right now, because we ultimately have to be able to respond to those things and also try to manage that and be aware of those things. Skepticism about immigration policy, right? Whether, depending on where your mindset is on that policy, that is a stressor within the community, is it not? It's definitely a stressor. Free speech. Bias incident or hate crime. These are the biggest issues that we have societally, right? What is free speech? What is constitutionally free speech? What is a bias incident? And what is a hate crime? You may not think of these things, but we train to this in law enforcement, because we have to know when someone is saying things in the public square that we may not agree with. Are we supposed to protect that? Even if the community at large doesn't like that speech, yes, we have to, because we're the protectors of all free speech. Speech we like and that we agree with, speech that we dislike. We are the protectors of free speech. That's why police are just uniquely positioned in society we ride a roller coaster, right, in popularity because of these things. That's what we're here for. But free speech is different depending on your historical context, right? Cultural, historical, personal experience. I have slides here that we train at the Recruit Academy that talk about historical trauma and the date ranges for when things have happened in society that have shaped people's understanding of government and their trust or distrust in law enforcement. Shifting the paradigm is huge in law enforcement training today. understanding that everyone sees things through their own personal lens, right? We have to understand that, and we're teaching recruits to understand the historical context in the different populations that we police daily, that we want to help, that may not want our help or trust our help, right? Understanding that, coming from a position of understanding and not looking at everything through your own personal lens, is what strengthens us in law enforcement to be able to police the multicultural systems that we work in on a daily basis. UCR data, another acronym. Uniform Crime Reports. This is the oldest clearinghouse that the federal government has used to keep crime statistics. Every year, every police agency submits this data to the federal government. Holliston is one of those. We submit this data so that the government can track what's going on in our country and what the crime trends are. 2023, now it takes time for them to catch up, obviously, right? So they're always operating in the background, all right? They're always operating a couple of years, a year to more behind us. But race-based crimes are far and away the largest type of hate crime that we see in the United States, not surprisingly. It's been that way for decades. It continues to be that way. 5,900 reported incidents. The predominant crimes are committed against their anti-black or anti-African American incidents that make up more than just over 50% of all of the hate crimes police and law enforcement deal with in the country on an annual basis. All right? Religion-based crimes. There were 2,699 incidents based on religion. That is more than half of those crimes nationally were anti-Semitic. And the Jewish population in the United States is an incredibly small population, but yet they are the largest victims of hate. Anti-Semitism is one of the largest, far and away. Okay, far and away. This is just kind of a graphic to demonstrate the uptick. And I think we all know where this uptick is stemming, right? This uptick is stemming, obviously, from international events that are happening, that are causing people to come out of the woodwork, take sides, and this is why we're seeing this. But you can see, if you read down from the countries, the J7 is just the largest Jewish population centers in the world, of which we are one. The United States is one. But if you follow it down, 2021, looking all over to the right, 2,717 incidents of anti-Semitism were recorded in the nation in 2021. 2024, 9,354. Staggering. And this isn't to dismiss. Police aren't being dismissive of other types of hate and bias crimes that are going on against the protected classes in the Commonwealth. But like I said earlier, we ride the wave of what is happening and what we need to be aware of, because this is an incredible increase in hate incidents against a protected class of people. All right. National scope. 2020, UCR, Uniform Crime Reporting. Federal Bureau of Investigation is the holder of the UCR, right? They're the ones that publish the UCR annually. You can go to their website and actually look at this data. But if you look at this, 64% of hate crimes nationally were motivated by race, ethnicity, or ancestry. And think about it this way, if 51% of those were anti-black, the rest are the all others, right? All others, all other racial demographics. 36% were anti-black African American, 10% anti-white, 9% anti-Jewish. Number of recorded bias incidents reported by the FBI was the highest since 2008. 36% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in 2022. This is pretty shocking to me when I saw this statistic. 40% of Americans think Israelis intend to cause maximal suffering to the Palestinians. That's almost half of our country. A third of Americans think Israeli operatives are manipulating U.S. national policy. Is that scary? 30% of people in the United States believe that there are Israeli operatives basically pulling the strings in the United States government. Something to think about. So in Massachusetts, we mirror the federal government. There are, and this is important for police, there are a multitude of other groups. But these are the groups that are statutorily protected groups. These are categories of people in the Commonwealth that hate crimes and bias incidents apply to. Race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, handicap, gender, or gender identity. All right, those are the things, those are what we're ingraining into our recruits at the Recruit Academy. We have to follow, in Hayton, Massachusetts, like I had said earlier, not to belabor it, but we have to follow the trends because, again, we are the responders. We respond to these things. It doesn't mean we're not responding or we have less of a response to hate crimes against other groups. Those have basically maintained a flat line, just with small peaks and valleys. All right, it remains unchanged, sadly. But what has happened is that we've experienced a tremendous surge in anti-Semitism in the past couple of years, a 200% surge in Massachusetts alone, or in New England alone. And I have a slide on that. This is how we respond. This is the curriculum that we're teaching our recruits at the Recruit Academy. All right? This is in-service training. These are slides specifically from in-service training. Hate crimes versus hate incidents. What brought Dr. Kuska and myself and Kathleen and the other members of the committee and Travis together was an incident that occurred near school property that was concerning. And we didn't know necessarily the best way to manage that situation. If it's not a crime, there's not a lot that police can do. Does that make sense? We deal with crime. Incidents are good to know about for law enforcement for intelligence purposes, to kind of know what's going on in the community. But in terms of being able to take any action, it has to be a crime that is motivated by hate against one of those protected groups. You have to be able to clearly say that. So that, and it's confusing for cops. So we train to that. EOPS, Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. That's the acronym up there, okay? The 2022 EOPS Annual Hate Crimes Data Summary found that there were 440 total reported bias incidents, the highest reported count since 2002. Things that you need to remember, your data and stat wonks out there, that you have to remember is that there's a lot of things that can cause data to look weird like that, right? Is there not? So the State Police Heart Unit, don't ask me what that acronym stands for. It's their hate and bias unit. They have a special unit that the governor started. And that unit is basically dedicated to be the clearinghouse for all of these. We are now mandated reporters to the state fusion center so that the Heart Unit can then keep the data on that. So prior to about, God, I don't know, Chief, do you know how long ago they started? I think it's just under Governor Healy. So since that administration, prior to that, I'm not really sure what there was in terms of data collection. So we have to take that with a grain of salt. But you'll see that the basic hate crimes data in Massachusetts mirrors the federal hate crimes statistics. It mirrors that. It's very, very close percentage-wise as to what is motivating hate crimes and how it kind of tapers down with gender bias being the lowest represented. Now, I want you to look at this slide, just the first couple of bullets of this slide. All right? And I'll read them. 2023, the Anti-Defamation League report, Massachusetts, the 6th highest number of reported anti-Semitic incidents in 2022 out of the 50 states. We rank 6th. We have the second highest number of white supremacist propaganda in the United States. Let that sink in. Is that surprising? Who's first? Who do you think is first? Texas. We're second to Texas. We may have dropped down to third or fourth now, but we are still high, very high, and it's surprising to a lot of people. But we are a targeted state because we're the heart of the revolution, right? So to get in the newspaper here in Massachusetts has significance to hate groups because they see themselves as revolutionaries. What better place than to come to Massachusetts and spread their ideology? Right? So it's not surprising. It's not surprising. Surge of anti-Semitic incidents in New England, 205% increase since 2022. That's tremendous. That is tremendous. Top communities affected by hate crimes. Hate crimes, the top communities. Boston, not surprising, right? Not surprising. And this is only with 4 or more. Holliston is not represented here, thankfully. But does that mean hate crimes are not being committed in some of these other cities and towns that we're seeing? No. No. Why, though? That's the question I ask. Why does Boston have 159 and Newton has 20? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you? It doesn't make sense. There could be a lot of reasons. Boston may have specialized units. They may have outreach programs that go out into the community and interface with the community to break down those barriers, right? Because it's a majority-minority city. So they need to go out there into the community. Everyone needs to go out into every community and reach people to get them to report when they're victimized. That's what we're here for as police officers, right? To protect people and to make them safe. Americans' attitudes toward police. 2024, 51% of the white population express a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in law enforcement. That means almost 50% aren't confident at all. And then, not surprisingly, people of color, 31 to 44%. That's abysmal. That's really, really sad to me. It's really sad because I don't know a bad cop. I'm being perfectly, at 30 years, I don't know a bad police officer. I've never met one. I've never met one. How does trust influence reporting barriers? We're teaching this at the recruit level, all right? There are internal barriers to populations, right? There are internal barriers. Those are the things where beliefs and perceptions that normalize hate victimization. Well, this is what my parents dealt with. I just got to deal with this, you know? Think about that. Lack of awareness. Whether you're from a different culture, a different country, you may not even know that what's happening to you is a crime. Lack of awareness in the community. We're just not telling people. We're not messaging right? There's not a lot of messaging, positive messaging getting out there. And then there's external barriers to reporting, right? I live in a community where if I report and the police show up at my house, I'm going to be judged by my neighbor, right? Or a snitch, things like that. External pressures. Disbelief, feeling it's useless. Why even bother? It takes them an hour to get to my house anyway. They don't care. No one's going to change anything. Why bother, right? And then some of the things that we are all dealing with now in law enforcement is inaccessibility and language limitations. Language limitations. I don't care what community you're in, especially communities like Holliston, Rentham, where I came from, Norfolk, where I'm going, where we don't have a big, huge multicultural population group. So we don't have a lot of different dialects, police officers that can speak or interact with people that don't speak English as a first language or don't speak English at all. Let's think about that. Do you think someone that doesn't speak English at all is going to want to come forward? And how about coming out of the shadows? Think about it. Think about it. External barriers to reporting. Now, transitioning to prevalent hate groups in Massachusetts. We're going really fast, but I'm on a tight timeline, and I have a tendency, you can ask the chief, if you give me a microphone and a podium, I'm off the rails, but I'm staying focused, Prevalent hate groups in Massachusetts. These are Massachusetts photos. Taunton and Fall River, 2023 and 2024. Drag queen event in Taunton Library disrupted by neo-Nazi protesters. We had one in Holliston. We had an event similar to this in Holliston. Thank God nothing happened. I didn't become aware of this until I was teaching this curriculum out in Holyoke, Mass, when I had a Taunton officer that was in my training that actually said, "Oh, you should have seen what happened in Taunton." NSC 131, National Socialist Club 131, bust into Taunton. And because it was an open public event, do they have a right to be there? Can they just go in and make everybody uncomfortable? Yeah, so they did. So communities got wise to that, and they basically put it out as you had to buy tickets. You had, not buy tickets, but you had to register to attend and get a ticket to actually attend. Holliston is now advised, right? So that's how, as a community, Taunton, Fall River, they didn't anticipate this. The cops didn't anticipate this. But do you think they got a phone call? What do? Do you arrest them? No, you can't. It's free speech. Do you think the community wanted them locked up? Yes. Do you think that causes friction between the community and their own law enforcement officers? Yes. Talking about it here in Holliston like this to you all is what is going to help you understand the position that we are in as law enforcement officers. Patriot Front, Texas-based white supremacist group. They are responsible for the vast majority of white supremacist propaganda that is being pushed out in Massachusetts today. They're the largest purveyors of white supremacist propaganda. Where do you think most of it is? Online. Thank you. Online. Because it's easy, it's cheap, and you can hit everybody with it. Yes. Most active, Massachusetts is Patriot Front's most active. If you Google them and Google Boston or Google Massachusetts, you'll see video of them on newscasts. This is downtown Boston 2025. There they are, this year, downtown Boston. Reclaim America, their logo is actually 3 Ks. 3 Ks. And just so you're aware, they don't just hate people of color, they're anti-Semitic. They're all these white supremacist groups hate the Jewish population, hate them. Just as bad. So just something to keep in mind. Antifa. Antifa is a unique group that is present here. Typically, they tend to go where protests are, just to raise hell. And they'll follow it, right? If there's a protest, we just had one, No Kings in Holliston. Antifa, there was so many of them, they probably had no idea where to go, but that's a group that would go to that protest and cause problems. All right? Just something to bear in mind. They are out there. And in conclusion, I left this slide in. I thought about not putting it in, but I wanted to put it in to show you what we are showing at the Recruit Academy. This is an amazing image that went viral, okay? This is a black police officer at a Ku Klux Klan rally and parade. And he worked this detail to keep people safe and to also protect their right to march. To protect their right to march, because he swore an oath to protect and serve his community. And that's what he's doing. Even when you don't agree with the message that's out there. And this is what can cause friction between law enforcement and the community. And I hope that this tonight is the beginning of kind of a dialogue and bridging that gap that we may have, all right? And I think I'll pass it over to Jerry L.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. 11 squares. 11 squares. Just eat those. Don't eat those.
Well, don't leave.
I'm not going anywhere.
No, not you, them.
Oh.
All right. So we're now transitioning, right? Like, thank you, Lieutenant Barrett. You just centered our why, right? We heard a lot of data. You heard a lot of, this is why. The data's here locally. It's in our backyards. It's impacting our families. It's impacting our communities. It's impacting what our kids consume. It's impacting what we see on social media. It's impacting us. So as a coalition, where do we begin? Well, as a coalition, one of the pieces that we wanted to begin, which is why we decided to begin with the data. We wanted to begin with the data and statistics because numbers don't lie. Looking at the funnel, it's about starting with awareness. Let's start with the data. Let's start with awareness. These numbers aren't abstract. They impact real people. This is our community. You want to do the next bullet?
Yeah. The funnel shows, can everyone hear me?
Here, do you want
the
this?
microphone on.
Good.
Double mic.
Can you hear me?
You got to freestyle a rap.
Okay.
Good.
I can.
Yeah, good.
The funnel shows a path forward from awareness to meaningful action. So I don't know how you all feel, but after reading the data, it kind of makes my heart pound a little bit and wonder like where to start and like what this all means as far as moving from awareness to action in the funnel. So let us, kind of walk you through what some of the action items might be. But wherever you are, whether you're being introduced to this material for the first time, or you've understood this work for a while and have maybe provided allyship to neighbors or friends, and you might be in an openness to explore or ready to take action, but we will walk you through those. And that leads to the next bullet, which some of us are just beginning this journey and others are already leaning in. So we're going to talk about how you can do this.
Yeah. There's no perfect place to start. And we're hoping that we start with us today, right? Knowing some of the people, and I don't know everyone here, some of us have started and engaged with some of the data. Some of us engage and either partner with some of the organizations that we work with, and maybe are familiar with some of this work. And some of us don't know where to start, right? When we talk about hate and bias, it feels heavy. But I think what this work calls us to do is become curious, have a desire to learn more, and then just start. So, thus admitting that there's no perfect place to start, right? It's like learning how to dance. Well, how do you learn how to dance? It's by moving a foot, and then you move another foot, and now you're salsaing, right? Then the next part is take a step. So what's that step? That step for us, for the Holliston Coalition Against Hate and Bias, is the Ally Pact. So if we can start sharing out the Ally Pact, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that is. So number one, here's what I want you to know. No matter where you start, whether you are new to this or deeply engaged, we invite you to join a growing community that stands for love, respect, and dignity for all. Period.
Yeah, and it's really being the community that we really want to be. So when I think about the discussions of where this started, Coalition Against Hate and Bias is important, but it did feel kind of heavy. And one of our colleagues brought up the notion of saying our community stands for love, respect, and dignity for all. Like, what do we want to be? So it's not just standing up against hate and bias, but it's also having some actions toward having love and respect and dignity for all.
So it's a personal commitment to interrupt hate and bias through meaningful action. Now here's the thing, it's not a contract. You're not signing real estate, okay? There's no legal contract here. It's not a legal tendered contract. No lawyers involved. It's a way to say this: I'm here. I'm with you. I'm in. That's it. So what does action look like? Rock, paper, scissors, you or me?
Learn, grow, act. Show up with curiosity and commitment, and practice empathy and community care. So those are all big words, and I said them slowly, but they have so much meaning. And we do believe that empathy is so important, active listening is so important, and being able to understand someone else's point of view is very important.
And, you know, I know there's going to be people at home. I'm not sure if this is live, but if it's taped, community care in many ways is you being here. Is part of community care. You're engaged today. Thank you. Right? Like showing up or leaving here today and sharing our message. Engaging with your community is part of this work. What the coalition will do moving forward, we're going to continue to commit to bring future educational opportunities. You heard me say, we may not be able to answer every question. As I walked around, I saw people writing not just one index card, multiples, right? So I know for sure we may not be able to answer every question, but I'm sure there's going to be ideas on those index cards that may lead to other forums, other questions, us putting in other partners to help us with some of this work. That's what the coalition commits to, because this is not just work owned by a few, by the schools, by town, by the community. This is work that we're saying is community work.
And then what we imagine could be, you know, a child leaves school and walks into Blair Square and sees the Ally Pack, like the number of people that have signed on to the Ally Pack, and they've learned at school what it is. Maybe they're walking into a small business who has a sticker or something on the window that says, we're part of the coalition, we're an ally. You know, doesn't that make a community feel better, maybe more safe, but also a community that works together? So those are the kinds of discussions that we had when creating this.
And I think the last piece is what I'd like to offer is that we're not aiming for perfection. There's no such thing as perfect. But the aim is to try to build a safer Holliston where love, respect, and dignity are ideals that we not just share as a commitment, but we strive to. That's the aim. That we aim for that. So the analogy that I just wanted to offer as you look at the Ally Pact, there's a community piece and there's an individual piece. The analogy is this. I'm not sure if everybody played sports, but if you did, or if you can imagine that, when you join a basketball team, that's what I played, you commit to the team. And you bring your best self to the team and you offer all you have to the team. Right? Like, I want to help my team win. But you also bring your best self to you. I want to also bring my best self to me. That's what the Ally Pact is. You're saying, I want to bring my best self to help my community, and I'm also bringing my best self for myself, too, as an individual. That's why the Ally Pact has two parts. Because I offer myself to the community to help our community like a team, and also the individual piece of me. So here's what I'd like to do. So you heard me saying, take a step. Here's the step. That's a QR code. QR code. It is live. A QR code is you could scan it with your picture, or you could sign the paper if you're not sure how to take a QR code, or we can help you. It takes you to a Google form. You need access. Dan, could you give access? It feels it's closed. Good thing our tech person is in the room. We have a full team here. But what the QR code will do is it's basically a Google form of this form. And if you are ready to commit and take a step with us, you can sign on and say, I'm willing to be a part and sign on to this pact. And it's a live form. And then, as you do that, and as you commit to that, and as he opens that up, what will be next? Do I have the thingy-majiggy? I'm going to open it up because we have a live ticker. And that live ticker will be live. And we're going to have it in different sites at Town Hall, at our site. Maybe other partners will have it live on their place. It'll be live every night. And the hope is it becomes momentum, where people will see over time that more and more people are committing to this and more people are signing up live. Because we want people to see, like, this is something that we're doing is building momentum here in our community. Does that make sense? So as we say that,
I was thinking about adding something.
Please add.
Okay.
I'm going to pull up the...
We had, when we developed the strategic plan, when the town did, the committee wanted to include students and young people to be a part of the 5-year strategic plan. So we went to the high school, and we were so excited to ask them, well, what would you like to see? What do you want? And they didn't understand kind of what we meant, like a tennis court, a basketball court. Like, what are you thinking? You could dream up anything. And we counted almost 5 to 6 students that they just want people to be kind to each other. And that's what they wanted for the strategic plan, which we did put in. But I thought it was powerful, and it does kind of drive our conversation tonight, and it did make me think of that as a why or as an action step, that us actively trying to provide allyship to others is important.
Open. So I got the thumbs up that was open. So hopefully people could, let me get out of the room because I don't want people scanning me. You'll get a salsa dancing director of SEL and Equity. I can collect those if you'd rather do that. Huh? Yep, just your name. So same as that, yeah. Yeah. No. How you doing? Joriel. Nice to meet you. Okay. Nice to meet you. What was your name again? Mariah. Nice to meet you.
Should we collect?
If they have the paper one?
Yeah, if you have paper ones, then you want to put your name in.
Yeah, I can do that.
So,
Yeah, do you want me to collect the note cards, or do you want people to hang on to them to verbally ask questions for the
why don't they hand in the ally packs so we could keep those in a pile if you'd rather sign the paper ones? Have them keep the cards and we'll collect that in a second. Dan, can I show the... Ooh, now it's red. So this was 5 earlier today, and we now have 15 people, and you can see the thing. It is building momentum. Look at that. Off to the races.
Do you have a target or any kind of quantifiable goal for this, or say fall, or?
Not yet. This is just built hot off the presses.
Yep, and I can-
So we have not scientifically tested this yet.
Will people be able to, if they're watching from home, use the QR?
Yeah. Yep. So the QR could be watched from home. It's also a live QR code on our site. It's going to be available. We're also hoping to link it right on the town site, have it available in multiple places. We don't have a goal set yet. I'm already answering questions. I'm off task, but
The question was if
we just built the page today, like yesterday and today, so we're visualizing it right now.
Other question card.
All right, so I'm going to get off this because I think we're good. So as we start looking at questions, we're at 18. Look at that. We're done with this piece of the presentation. We're going to take a look at, we have some questions there. We're going to take a look at some of the questions. Give us about a minute or two, and then we're going to start answering some questions, all right? So if you want to re-up coffee, I'm going to turn off this piece for a sec, and we're going to take a look at some questions.
Thank you.
You want to look at them? What do we have?
That's a good one.
Oh, yeah, please, please, please.
I can call you up to address that? Okay. Thank you. I think that goes to, or I can read it out loud.
I don't know, that might be tough.
I can read it out loud.
You want to read them?
You can just keep them here and just.
Okay. Police Department procedure. No, that's what I'm looking for. When is the next event?
No, she's got two.
Increase in hate crimes.
Kathleen
in
has
the-
2 mics.
Here you go. If you need
Oh,
it.
I was just going to read some of them and have people respond.
Well, we just need to. Okay, so here are 2 data questions for
If you want it.
the police.
Well, let's take some so you can scan them first,
Yeah.
right? Because there might be something you can't handle. I'll take some.
Well,
let's take
just
the
this one.
Scan it.
Describe the steps that.
Yeah, I think that's.
Are you okay with that?
That's safe.
Oh, you can do this one. Kids struggling
thank you.
emotionally.
Coalition communication. This is like next step. Okay, we'll start with some of the answers to
One is
questions.
new teacher, and one is a new teacher.
So, first question,
So this is
and we'll try to get to as many as we can. I apologize if we don't get to them all. Has the police department's procedure, directive, or instruction as it relates to immigrants changed, either formally or in daily practice? Example, previously would you evaluate or act on a person's immigration status as a standard traffic stop? So what's really changed, I think is what the question is. Or has it changed?
Thank you for the question. Lauren, the way we conduct business in Holliston with regard to traffic stops or any other crimes, we don't ask immigration status. We don't ask status at all. We're not really interested in that. It's really just whether or not someone's like broken the law or done something they shouldn't have done that brought them into contact with the police. But beyond that, there's no need to really change the way we do anything because immigration status doesn't matter to the Holliston Police Department or really any local or municipal police department in the Commonwealth.
All right, a couple more questions. I'm going to use my teacher voice. Can you hear me?
I have a few.
A couple for, well, Jim's up, and then we'll.
Oh, I
you know.
see.
Can you define hate crime as a legal term?
Sure. So hate crimes, in order for something to be, so there are, without getting too into the weeds on hate crimes, there are crimes that are hate crimes by statute, all right? In other words, there are certain crimes that are named in the laws that are hate crimes that you can charge. Most of the hate crimes that we would charge would be any crime that is motivated by a bias or hatred toward one of those protected classes that we saw on the screen. So in other words, an example that I used, the Recruit Academy, an assault and battery, a fight outside a bar between 2 men, is it a hate crime? Well, not necessarily. Let's say it's a black man and a white man fighting in front of a bar. Is it a hate crime? Well, not necessarily. Let's say that doesn't matter. Let's hypothetically say that the black individual spilled a drink on the white individual, and then a fight ensued. And during that fight, hateful speech was coming out of the white guy, and he was using bad racial epithets. Is that a hate crime? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because was it the spilling of the drink that motivated the assault, the crime itself? Or was it the fact that it was a black person that motivated it? People have fighting words that are regrettable, but they don't necessarily mean that it's a hate crime. So it gets confusing, doesn't it? I mean, when we think about it. So the police have to be able to prove that the intent of the crime itself was motivated by hate or bias toward the, so I break it down like this. But for the fact that the person was X, this never would have happened. Is that easier to understand? I came up with that myself at the Recruit Academy because I couldn't figure, I know what it means, but teach a baby police officer who's newborn and doesn't really know anything, they don't understand it. So if you can answer the question, but for the fact that that person is X, meaning one of those protected classes, this never would have happened. And that made it simple for me. So that's how I would legally define what a hate crime is. Sure. Most of the data that the MPTC uses, they use a lot of different data clearinghouses, UCR, the Uniform Crime Report. They utilize a lot of other trustworthy data sets. But for most of the anti-Semitic stuff that we're using now in the Recruit Academy, most of that is through the Anti-Defamation League, which is a great clearinghouse for that type of data, because that's what they basically track is incidents, crimes, things like that. UCR is the Uniform Crime Report. So crime reporting, hate crimes are what matters to the FBI. Hate incidents, not so much. Not so much. So a lot of times these nonprofits and private organizations that we trust and that we lean on will actually have that. There's also something, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but there's the victim surveys or surveys that go out to the general population that it goes out to enough people that we can generalize data from, and those are victimization, people who have been victimized by something that never reported it to the police. That's another source for us. Okay?
All right. I jump in? Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll do some. Number one, someone asked, okay, sign the pact, then what? Then we solved all problems in the world. We know that's not true, right? So first, as you said, and you saw me take a step, I didn't take a leap. I didn't jump through the air. I didn't take an express flight, right? That was just a miniature step. And that step was just us saying, we're starting to commit. So, I didn't take a head count, but if I just took a guesstimate, maybe there was 25-ish, 30 people, and all the thousands of people watching at home are committing because you saw this presentation, you're like, I'm in. But the Ally Pact starts to say, I want to get engaged in this. And I want to start to create a Holliston that feels safer, that feels more committed to doing something about hate and bias in my community. So that's what the next step is connected to the Ally Pact. But the Holliston Coalition of Hate and Bias has a bigger mission. And the bigger mission starts with what else does our community need to start to build a community that feels safer, that addresses some of this data. And that's not just an Ally Pact, right? But it's also not just one thing. It's a multi-pronged approach, and that could be education. That could be encouraging different stakeholders, because at that table, you heard the presentation, Holliston Youth and Family Services, the school department, town hall, the police department. Our fire chief is not here, but the fire department's there. We have different partners, different community partners. I think Parks and Recs are there. We have different stakeholder leadership is there. Diverse Holliston is there. We have different partners there. And each of them have different community arms, and those community arms also have community impact, and they also might lead work too that impacts this data. So from the work of us coming together, there might be ideas that spread into the community, and the coalition might say, let's support each other in impacting that community. So I think we're at a space, we're not at a space to be able to say exactly what's going to be happening, but we are in a space to say the group has coalesced to start to say this is a step and more work's happening, which will include education, but is also going to include to say now that we're coming together, each of us has a responsibility to push the work out and to support each of our roles in pushing the work out, because the data is too impactful to ignore it. So that's what we do. There was another one that says, if someone says something racist or hurtful online or in person, should we say it's not appropriate? Yeah. But also, here is something that we talked about. Everyone, and you heard me say it, none of us is identical, which means not all of us comes with the same skill set or resources or level of voice. And when I say voice, you see me standing in front of you. You saw me doing a little salsa dance. You saw me talking with maybe a little bravado, a little experience, but not everybody comes with that. So not everybody has that skill set to be able to say, hey, that wasn't okay. So as I say that, people have to start to think about how do I want to impact? How do I want to say, hey, that's not okay? But that also means that people have to start thinking about playing with that language, right? What's my language? How do I want to impact that? So for the person who wrote that, maybe for them it's that, but for someone else it's a different way of saying that. I've heard, in schools, kids might say that, hey, that's an ouch. Or that's an ouchie or whatever. It's really developing your language that makes you feel comfortable, but letting the person know that, hey, that hurt. That's not okay here. That's not okay in our department or in our culture. Or kids letting each other know, hey, bro, that's not okay. Or online, if you're online gaming, kids telling each other, bro, you went too far. Right? However they want to develop that language, maybe talking to your kids around how they can talk to each other online. Right? So what I'm saying is there's no one line. But part of the work is helping develop that line or helping develop that language. So it's like an answer but not answer. But the not answer is practice doing it. Practice developing the language. And that's possibly something the coalition can do, is help the community develop language. You want to try some answers?
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you want to do yours? Sure.
Okay. My question was, what did I mean by diversity is prevention? Great question. So, data shows that when children feel safe, when they feel seen, when they feel heard, when their identity is affirmed, when the spaces that they are in feel accepting of them, they are less likely to go towards things that are bad for them. What do I mean by that? They are less likely to use substances. They are less likely to experience depression or mood instability. They're less likely to have incidences of suicidal ideation, right? All of those negative risk factors we look for. So when we say diversity is prevention, we really look at the data to tell a story about what are children in Holliston experiencing and what do we need to do to intercept that so that we aren't seeing kids go towards those negative health outcomes. That's what I meant by that.
Thank you. I have 2 mics now.
I'm a new teacher, so what would be the steps to take, if I see a student that is struggling emotionally, and thus that will affect the academic part as well. So where do I go?
Just repeat the question.
Where do I report and follow on it? So the services may be provided to the student.
Sure. So I think you asked, where would you go to get help for a student if they are struggling? I think there's a number of places that we can go. One of them is directly to our counselors. As you know, we have counselors within each building and administration, so I would make sure I get help from them. We also have the 2 programs that we had in our slides earlier. Care Solace is a referral service. It's in, all of the counselors have it. It often goes out in other emails, so that's a free program. It's on our website. And what was the there was another, what's the other program? Cartwheel is also a service that we provide through Holliston Public Schools for students that they can access a clinician. They do sometimes in school and outside of school, don't they?
They do, and also we have
Telehealth
a wonderful
for-
partnership with Holliston Youth and Family Services, who can also, depending.
refers and gets help for students, and so it's a community service for all our community. I mean, there are services available. We need to access them. Also, I mentioned that we do have that anonymous reporting system, so if you don't know where to go, you report there. We've actually had some very successful reports, preventive reports. We've had recently, I think, a couple of suicidal ideations were reported that another student was in fear of another child's safety, reported it anonymously, and it's through our website. There's a phone number, there's an email place, and it's a 24-hour service, so I get the call, Charlie gets the call, the police get the call, you get the call, Jackie, I think. It goes to everyone, and I think I might be the last person just to make sure if somebody else didn't address it, the superintendent knows and does something about it. So I mean, it's been very successful.
I think to, maybe it wasn't your question, maybe it was someone else's question, but I think there was another question that was really similar, that I think to add this piece is that, and for new teachers, that so much happens for new teachers that I think the other piece that, the gap that I think could be identified is that for new teachers, maybe as a district we could do a better job of ensuring that they know early on how to access those resources and either make referrals or connect with those resources. And I think that's what I'm hearing. So I think as we end the year, and as I think about next year, and as I think about hiring new teachers, what I hear is, how can we help new teachers find out about that information earlier so we can make sure that they know how to make those referrals?
And I'm actually thinking adding it to the employee handbook that we sign off each
Yep.
year might be another place we can access it.
So I think that's what I hear.
Great. That's a good handoff for my questions, which are around communication and a marketing plan and, okay.
That one's just...
I don't have a huge teacher voice. So the question some of the questions that I have are, yes, the slides can be provided, as long as that's okay with Jim and the MPTC.
Municipal Police Training Committee.
And those will be available. We've created a page for the Coalition Against Hate and Bias. We'll put out something on the Facebook page, and on the home page of the town website, there's a middle part that is called the news column, and we post all of our posts there as well for news. So I'll try to put something up relating to this event, and that there'll be future events so that we can get used to finding the Coalition Against Hate and Bias on our website. And I believe the schools will be providing the same. The superintendent and I will make sure that they're both, they both have the QR code and have future events. So a few people had mentioned that they'd like to see more community members here. So I think that's what we're talking about when we talk about the Ally Pact and getting more people involved. And that's what we're going to be looking for. The presentation will be online, and we don't have marketing people in town. You know, we have a few marketing people that are helping us, but we hope most people are following Facebook that are in the community, so I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to check the website often. There is a button called subscribe on the homepage, and you can subscribe to any additions that we add to website pages. So I encourage people to do that and to subscribe to all of our newsletters, and we will make sure that the next events get into those newsletters.
And the schools will be having a community newsletter going out either tomorrow or Friday. I will make sure the Ally Pact link is in there. So please, if we have that, if that goes to about 3,700 or 800 people in the community, it's not just for the schools. We have other people that can access that one particular one that I send out. So please forward it to other people if they want to get involved. But this is just our initial kickoff. We're hoping to do other opportunities, such as go to the select board and present, or go to the library board meetings, or come to another event, and you can bring and share some of the Ally Pact information with other groups if you'd like us to.
Yep, And then finally, there were 2 questions about bringing family members and children to events, so we'll try to incorporate an event like that for families to come. Yep.
Just ask, tomorrow night there's an event at the library that's about tolerance to true unity. So it's on the same subject, basically, because I have noticed this.
Yep.
Will there be somebody there that might want to mention this? Or
So the question is, tomorrow night there'll be an event at the library that is similar to this, and they're asking if one of us will be there at that event to share out the Ally Pack. I think it's a great idea, and we'll try to get someone there, so thank you for that. Gives us an opportunity to mention it as well.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night at the library at 7, I don't know the name.
It's about having conversations about hate and so forth.
Oh, having difficult conversations around hate and bias.
You'd have to register for it.
And part of the work we're trying to do as a coalition is to connect all those dots, right?
Yes.
There are so many things going on, but sometimes they're running in silos or we're not connecting all those dots. So that's some of the work we're trying to do moving forward.
Yes, we bring all of the events together to discuss, and we've talked about that as well, that there are lots of different groups doing different things. So.
As an incentive to download all this material, sign the Ally Pack, I'm going to give Nana Barrett's recipe for lemon squares to Kathleen to put on the website as well.
We actually got questions.
Everything else. She's perfectly fine with it. She'll love it.
So,
Yes, I think we need to wrap
All right.
up for everybody's time tonight.
yeah, so, do you want to wrap up? I wrap up? Or?
Why don't you, Jerry?
All right. So, I guess the wrap up is thank you, right? Thank you for the people who are here. Thank you for the people at home, live or taped. Thank you, right? Thank you for stepping in. Thank you for leaning in. Thank you for, starting that community care work. Thank you for signing the Ally Pact and being some of the first to kind of move this work forward. From me, thank you. I don't know if you guys want to say anything.
I was going to say, as Jariel mentioned, this is a step. Maybe by the time, in a couple of years from now, Holliston will know how to salsa. We're stepping into it. This is just the beginning. We're not even pretending that we're even anywhere near along our journey together, but we have to start somewhere. That's how the coalition started as well. So you're here to help us continue this journey together, and we thank you for that.
That's it. Thank you, and it's an honor to stand here with all of you.
And while our numbers were low, I feel this is promising because you are now going to spread the word.
That's right.
If each of you tells 2 people to think, there's another